Hello and welcome back to Ad Astra Interea. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after Amicus basically was beat up by the representative of that one village, town, mining place that likes to rebel all the time. So, yeah, he has his ego hurt right now, and him and Marco had a little conversation about, trying to express your actual emotions, but Amicus was like, oh no, I'm fine, oh no, but I have to appear strong in front of my human so that he thinks that I can protect him or something like that. And the humans are like, dude, just, it's okay, I'm fine, if you have a bruised ego, then okay, let's deal with that instead. But anyways, so yeah, let's continue and see what happens. The villa is surprisingly lavish. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but after seeing that somewhat barren streets of Lux, I assumed it would be less decked out than the palace in Ad Astra. Wow, this is really nice. It is. Amicus seems as taken aback as I am. Haven't you been here before? This is where you stay when you're in Lux, right? Amicus seemed embarrassed. Actually, I've never stayed here myself. This is my first visit to Lux as Emperor. My previous visits in my youth never lasted longer than a day. Cassius is likely familiar with this place, though. I turn my attention back to the villa. It's decorated and furnished to an extent that's even more extravagant than the palace. Though, to be fair, the palace isn't all that extravagant, and that was intentional. Its bare and utilitarian design is meant to appear at least somewhat approachable to the common wolf. We go about setting in, and Amicus raids the pantry and the kitchen and returns with a bottle of wine and a smaller bottle of what I assume to be Verdi. It's a drink made mostly with the juice of cucumber-like fruit, and Amicus knows it's my favorite drink on Ad Astra, though its pink hue tells me that it's a flavor that I haven't tried before. We settle on our reclining couches, which I notice are made with gold trim and polished wood. Your grandfather, Vetus, right? Amicus seems to perk up immediately. Oh yes, Vetus! You've learned of him? I hold back a wince, forgetting that I hadn't told Amicus about how far I'd gotten in Ad Astra a history quite yet. I quickly move on so that he doesn't dwell on it. Just a little bit. I just remember that he ended up getting rid of most of the expensive stuff owned by the family and gave it to the people or something. He did! About a century ago, the palace had far more decorations and murals. It was a very important step forward in the imperial family's relationship with the people. Amicus swigs from his bottle, and I do the same from mine. I can tell that the pinkish color of the liquid is probably from flower petals, since the drink has a distinctive floral taste about it. Even though it makes me think of walking through a perfume cloud with my mouth open, the chilled drink is still refreshing, as long as the imagery isn't in my mind. Well, I guess I would have thought that might have been the case for the villas too, especially in a region as poor as Lux. They don't have much wealth here, right? Well, the mines and the factories are prosperous enough. The issue is how the wealth is then distributed to the people. Unfortunately, the people of Lux seem intent on voting for the most extreme politicians, who then tend to be the most corrupt. It's a self-inflicting misery, unfortunately. I instinctively blanch at his reasoning, but I don't want to get into another argument. Amicus had seen my reaction well enough, though. I should not have to tell you once again that you can speak freely with me, Marco. I know that, but lately I've been feeling more and more like I don't know what I'm talking about. I know, but I need to remember that Ad Astra isn't Earth, and sometimes I feel like it isn't my place. But it is! I want a human's perspective. Well, just remember it's only my perspective. Alright. And I think that when you say it's self-inflicted, it feels like you're just blaming them for a situation that isn't really their fault. Yes, I understand that, but what I said is mostly out of frustration. It's difficult to sway these people and at times, I'm at a loss for what to do about the Lux problem. Well, make sure you stop calling it the Lux problem, first of all. I'd never say that out loud to anyone else, of course. But someone might hear you. We both know that there can be ears anywhere. I suppose you're right, but that doesn't fix the actual issue. Have you tried building a better relationship with Lux? Of course, but like I said, the funds we send them end up in the pockets that we cannot trace. Attempts to regulate or even withhold funds end in riots. Attempts to purge unqualified politicians from the ballots end in riots. Really, any attempts to make Lux resemble a civilized Adastrian city end in riots that do not end until Ad Astra gives in to their demands. Tell me, what the hell am I supposed to do to make them understand that Ad Astra simply wants what is best for them? Amicus's frustration is palpable, but despite his annoyed and growling tone, I know it's not directed at me. Another reason I don't feel qualified to judge or tell him what to do is because I know he spends most of his time thinking about things that I can only chime in on, which I imagine is a bit irritating. But he seems to be genuinely seeking my advice, so I try to. From what I understand, a lot of the problem in Lux comes from its isolation, right? I would say so, yes. Oh, and I think a few centuries back an emperor tried to, calm the rebellious spirit of Luxians by imposing large amounts of hard liquor into the city, which I can't imagine had a good effect on the people. I do not recall that policy? Did Calm tell you that? I remember that I need to tell Amicus that I'm using Chamian records to get a better context for Adastrian history. Just not right now, with all the other crap going on. I think so. Either way, maybe you can try to address those problems. How do you usually get from one city to another? Well, through flight, of course. Can a Luxian afford that? No, most cannot. Most travel is done by automated chariots. Though from Lux, I believe you must travel on foot out to the mountains first. I frown. Aren't the chariots really slow? Well, they're twice that of walking speed. Thus, it would take about 2 weeks to travel from here to Ad Astra City, so not terrible. How do they transport all that raw material from the mining or the goods from the factories? Those are moved by foot and chariot to a major river, then placed on boats. Do people travel on the boats? No, the boats are only for the transportation of goods and resources, and the river only connects to Tricely. They refine the resources and distribute the goods to other cities. What are you going on about anyway? I'm trying to figure out how people can get around on Ad Astra. From what I can tell, the main problem here is how isolated it is. On Earth, if a state wants to unify its people, it connects its people. That's usually done through roads, trains, aircraft, general public transport. It sounds like Ad Astra doesn't really have that. Ah, yes, well, we already have the roads, and they've served us well for thousands of years. And they only serve slow chariots. I'm not sure how the parents work, or if maybe you can ask Chamians for help, but high-speed transportation for the general public would probably be my first step. Amicus stares at me and I shake my head. Sorry, I don't know much about what's possible, so I probably sound crazy right now. Well, it's certainly not an easy or quick proposition, but it's something that can be looked into. I appreciate the idea though. One of the reasons we've never pursued a better connection with Lux is because its people do not seem to want one. Well, maybe it's because they feel so isolated? Like they're not part of Ad Astra? Over time, that could change. I suppose that could be the case. I'll ask some of the others about it. Maybe we can ask Magis since he's coming with us now? Amicus shifts, looking a bit embarrassed at the mention of the other wolf, and I feel bad bringing him up. Yes, that will likely be necessary. I'm tired of talking politics, and Amicus seems to be just as tired, so I get up and join him on his own couch, and he sets aside his wine to hold me close to him. I feel the hardness of his cape's clasp against my head, and I help him pull the red fabric over his head, careful to set aside his golden crown first. It's slightly bent out of shape, I assume from the fight, but I don't mention it as he pulls me back in against his body. I begin to gently rub his chest and stomach, running my hands over his thick pecs and down his padded stomach, which I'm sure is still aching. We're both already falling asleep, so I give him a light version of my usual rubdown. I listen to his breathing and notice his pants crotch bulge just slightly, but I can tell that he's too tired for any serious action tonight. Thank you for speaking candidly with me, Marco. You always had fantastic insight. Thanks. You're doing a fantastic job as an emperor. Amicus looks at me in a way that tells me that made him a bit emotional. I've rubbed my head against his chest, and before long, we're both drifting off to sleep. Amicus dreams heavily that night, several different scenes flashing through his mind. One in which his father chastises him for losing against Magis, another in which Virginia is berating him for failing to unify Ad Astra, and finally one where Marco stands in a large, cavernous room filled with other humans. Amicus can tell that Marco is distressed, looking unsure, hesitant, and Amicus wants to help him, but he's not able to speak because he isn't there. These dreams are typical, but the last one transitions into something that isn't a dream, something that Amicus is becoming more familiar with as the parents exert their influence more and more. It's about Marco. Amicus startles awake, looking down to confirm Marco is there with him, feeling immense relief when he does. Then he hears what awoke him. A knocking sound on the door. Amicus pauses, then whispers at the ceiling. Calm? Yes, Amicus. Calm whispers back, leaving Amicus grateful that amongst the expensive decor, they've also installed a PA system. Who is at the door? Amicus is careful to keep his voice low as Marco shifts around against his body. Though he's mostly adjusted to Adastrian hours, Marco still sleeps a bit longer than the average wolf, and Amicus has to assume it's because humans need it. The Pharaoh's second son, Nefero, and the Chemian ambassador to Ad Astra, Brunus. Amicus feels slightly annoyed, then moderately annoyed as the knocking sounds again, this time a bit louder, making Marco stir once more. Gently, Amicus removes himself from the couch, keeping the human propped up before slowly laying him back against the cushions. Deciding to forego his cape and crown for now, the wolf strides to the front door of the estate, pulling it open quickly. The rush of frigid air almost takes Amicus's breath away after spending so much time in the climate-controlled villa. Amicus can tell immediately that something bad has happened, just by looking at Nefero's face. Despite his initial annoyance, Amicus feels a prickle of worry that it could have been something to do with the delegation. What happened? Nefero stays quiet, on the verge of pouting. Amicus has never seen the jackal sulk in such a way. It's Brunus who finally speaks for him, when it's clear that Nefero isn't going to. Well, we were just out getting breakfast when we were, harassed, I guess. Amicus clenches his jaw tightly for just a second. And? Well, they started pelting Nefero here with, I don't know, fruit or vegetables or something. Amicus bites his tongue to hold back from cursing. What about the curfew? It came from the windows. We went back to our flat, but then some of them did start coming out and formed a crowd at our door, demanding we hand over Nefero. Amicus closes his eyes, leaning against the doorframe, easily able to picture the scene. Drones came in and stunned most of them. Then we were told that it'd be best if Nefero not stay in the city. Damn it. Amicus squeezes his eyes shut, hoping that somehow word hasn't spread of the incident. Do not worry yourself. They seem satisfied enough when I was escorted from the city. There was no further issue from what I was able to tell. Yeah, it was real isolated. Wasn't enough to get a big crowd going. Still, Amicus knows the optics are not good. Amicus turns his attention to Nefero, seeing that the jackal is trembling ever so slightly under his tensed-up muscles. Are you injured? No. I mean, they nailed you pretty good on the head a few times, even if it was just rotten fruit. I am fine. Nefero's tone is flat but slightly dark, and Amicus can tell that the jackal would like to not be visible at the moment. The wolf knows the feeling quite well himself. Alright, well, you are welcome to stay here. There's a spare room towards the back of the villa. What about you, Brunus? I'll probably be sharing that room with Nef. but I'll go back first and get our stuff. Is that safe? Bjarni is getting it, but I'll meet him halfway since he wants to know a bit more about what happened. It's quite clear to Amicus that Brunus wants to give Nefero time alone to sulk. Well, alright, let me know if any other issues arise and I shall deal with them. Of course, your majesty. Brunus bows as he backs away, muttering see you later, Nef, as he does. Yes, see ya. Amicus stands before Nefero, the jackal's stiff posture making even the wolf feel awkward. While there are many things about Nefero that irritate Amicus, he can at least admit that the chameleon has a knack for making things not awkward. It's slightly unsettling. Amicus clears his throat and steps aside, indicating Nefero should enter. So, do you wish to speak more on the matter? No. Well, the room is right over there. Amicus gestures at a doorway visible from the villa entrance. Thank you. Apologies again for bringing complications to... Never mind that. Go get settled. Why, of course, your majesty. Nefero's voice is slightly mocking in response to Amicus's more commanding tone. The return of Nefero's irritating, cheeky nature, brief as it may be, is enough to put Amicus at ease. That whatever happened, Nefero will get over it. Now he just has to worry about whether or not Lux will get over it. Okay, you'll have the place to yourself for the morning. Marco and I are going out. Not into the city, I assume. Of course not, especially after what happened. It's a private outing. Enjoy yourselves, then. Amicus watches the jackal go, letting out a long exhale of breath, which reflects his feelings of being deflated. Sapiens like Nefero, the ones that rarely admit to what they are feeling, to what they are thinking, are frustrating to the wolf. So much for chameleon bluntness. While he tolerates Nefero's behavior in Ad Astra City, or at least is only mildly annoyed by it, it's a different issue out in these less civilized population centers. The wolf feels his insides churn with anxiety, wishing he prepared better for this mission. He rubs his stomach, still sore from yesterday's Pugnu match. He'd have to call a meeting later today so that he can start keeping tabs on everyone. For now, he needs to take Marco to the hot springs like he promised. I hold onto Amicus's paw as we make our way up the side of the mountain. And I thought I was underprepared yesterday. My sandals threaten to slip with every step, and after I stub my toe on one of the rocks, Amicus just picks me up. I don't mind at all, especially since no one's around to see it. How do humans get around? Is Earth a perfect sphere with no geological features? Well... I keep my arms wrapped firmly around Amicus's neck as he piggybacks me up the rugged and uneven climb. If I were dressed the right way with the right kind of shoes, this would be less of a problem. Well, I hope you bring all those things with you when you return. I'll make a mental note of that. While the chameleon drone continues to keep me warm, Amicus's warmth is much more welcoming, and I press my face against the back of his neck. The wolf trudges along in the foggy silence for a while, and I'm just content to lose myself in the hypnotic bouncing. After a while, I start to recognize the sulfuric smell that reminds me of the baths back at the palace. Shouldn't be long now. The hot springs are the main draw for tourism in this region. Most artificial baths are modeled after the composition of Luxian springs. It's healing for the body and the mind. Well, I can't wait. I've never really believed in the supposed ability of Adastrian mineral water to heal physical ailments, but I can't argue with that mental part. After Amicus told me about what happened to Nefero, I wanted to invite him to go with us, but I didn't think either of my canine friends would have wanted that. Soon enough, I start to see clouds of steam and, eventually, the pathway leads to a scenic outlook, one with crystal clear spring right in the middle of it. Oh look, they even prepared our towels. He gestures at a bucket with towels beside it, and I even spot a few bottles stood up by the edge. There's a giddiness in the wolf's voice that I haven't heard in a good while, and I smile at Amicus's pup-like excitement. Amicus sets me down on the stony ground and begins to strip off his clothes. I do the same, though not quite at the same frantic pace. I've only removed my robe when Amicus does something else he hasn't done in a while. I look up in time to see the wolf leap into the hot spring, surprisingly without any care in the world. Again, it's nice to see, and to know that Amicus is willing to act this way in front of me means a lot. I'm the only one. But I'm also a bit worried because I'm not sure he knows if that's really a safe thing to do, especially in a natural spring. The moment unfreezes, a moment that lasts less than a second before he hits the water. Amicus comes up quickly. Ah, it's a pole that's hot. His voice is full of pleasure though. Amicus reclines against the edge of the spring, laughing in such a relieved, satisfied way that I'm eager to go in myself. Amicus looks up at me. So, are you coming in to join me, Marco? I sidle up to the edge of the spring and Amicus eyes my more cautious approach. I recommend the, what do you call it? Cannonball technique? It's a bit hotter than the palace bath. Okay. I finally set aside my worries, telling myself to just lighten up, though I do look where I'm going to land to make sure that there's no rocks poking up. Then I jump. He's right about the heat, and for just a moment I panic a bit, but within seconds, before I even surface, the burn settles into a pleasant warmth that instantly seeps into my muscles. When I come back up, the first thing I notice is how little the water stings my eyes. Not only that, but it feels better. It might all be in my head, but there's a silky quality to the water, and I can immediately see why this is preferred over the artificial baths. Amicus smiles at me. Quite pleasant, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of amazing actually. Nothing beats the real thing. Gods, I needed this. After seeing that stiff, rigid way he carries himself all the time after becoming emperor, it's nice to see him relax. It makes me a little bit emotional, which catches me by surprise. I want Amicus to be at ease all the time. To know that he's always stressed now makes me sad. You alright, love? Yeah, I'm good. This is great. Amicus looks at me for a good, long moment, then sighs. I suppose that I should admit that I came here for my own selfish reasons. I didn't even ask you if you wanted to come. No, I'm happy to be here, Amicus, especially with you. I don't want to say that you're hiding something from me, but you looked a bit upset just now. Is it Nefero? That also catches me by surprise. Oh, no, I mean, I thought about asking to invite him, but I didn't think either of you would care for it. Alright. Seeing Amicus's tense demeanor returning, I decide to just tell him. Okay, so seeing you so relaxed and happy made me happy, but also kind of sad because you don't look that way very often anymore. Ah, is that all? Don't worry about me, Marco. It's all part of the job. All things must come to an end, and that includes puphood. I'm happy to indulge in it once in a while, though. Are there any natural springs near Ad Astra City? No, at least none worth your time anyway. Amicus runs his paw through his fur. I can already feel it nourishing my fur. I'm sure it's the same for you as well. I reach up and feel my hair, and it does feel softer, as if I just shampooed and conditioned it. Like I said, it has healing properties, and well, some say it has an effect on the libido as well. I raise an eyebrow at Amicus. Uh-huh. Indeed. I notice a dark length beginning to rise between Amicus's legs. I try not to smile at how quickly he's worked himself up. We weren't able to make love last night after all. Do you know what would really relax me? I frown, still playing along. Amicus, if you're gonna say sex, that's not a true statement at all. After the fact, I mean. Well, I know rubbing that body of yours tends to get you relaxed. Maybe I can start with that? I didn't get to really give it to you last night. That immediately seems to get the wolf going. Heh. Well, I don't want this to be one-sided. It's not. I love rubbing down your body. And why's that? I can tell that I'm pushing my wolf's buttons, so I push further. Because I like to feel your big, strong body and imagine what you're about to do to me with it. Well, why don't you come over here and show me how you like to feel me? Amicus leans back further, exposing his torso to me. Despite not having been in the mood just minutes ago, I definitely am now, and I slowly start to pull myself away from my end of the spring. I wonder how long you'll be able to restrain yourself this time. Let's find out. Good morning. We both jump and Amicus immediately covers up his now very prominent cock poking out of the water. I quickly lean back against the ledge, trying to make things look casual, though Amicus's reaction ruined any chance of that. Even I'm a little bit surprised by how violently he covered himself up. I suppose we don't know much about this Magis guy, to be fair. Amicus tried to keep his heaving breaths under control as Magis lowered himself in a smaller pool next to ours. Good morning to you as well, Marco. Sorry if I startled you. I was just soaking in a spring further up the trail. Either he didn't notice anything unusual, or he's pretending. I feel like it must be the latter. Oh, no, just a little surprise is all. Yes, we were both told the springs would be private for the day. I want to tell Amicus to be a little bit more polite considering this man is one of the triumvirs of Lux, and he'll be traveling with us for the rest of the mission. I also understand why Amicus is as agitated as he is. Interrupted in the middle of a very private moment by the man who humiliated him yesterday. Of course, I'll be taking my leave soon enough. I just wanted to make sure that the accommodations are to your liking. He indicates the bucket towels and drinks. That, and I thought that I might take the opportunity to get to know the head of the delegation and his companion a bit better. Amicus takes a deep breath, possibly to make it more clear to the other wolf that he's not interested in doing that at the moment. I finally speak up to hopefully distract Magis from Amicus's rudeness. Yeah, it is great. Thank you, Magis. Of course, Marco. I was not aware of your favorite drink, so I settled on Verity since I understand not everyone enjoys their alcohol. That's perfect, actually. Thanks again. Yes, the drinks are fantastic. It was good to speak to you today, Magis, but my companion and I were discussing some private matters. Oh, of course, I'll be on my way. But I did want to ask. Are you quite alright after our bout yesterday? I know you assured us of your wellness, but after reflecting on it overnight, I wanted to make sure. Amicus stares straight ahead, into the distance, as if not acknowledging that Magis is touching him will allow him to pretend it's not happening. As I said yesterday, I am perfectly fine. Thank you. Yes, I only ask again due to the fact that I understand the issue of optics when it comes to being a high-ranked official, especially while you are in Lux. This seems to finally break Amicus's dwindling patience. You forget yourself, Magis. The position of triumvirate is quite different from that of an emperor. I say what I mean. I feel a sinking feeling in my chest as Amicus drops all attempts at appearing proper. I completely understand Amicus's frustration right now, but Magis's sincere tone is, as far as I can tell, completely genuine. I realize then that I need to alleviate the situation somehow. Amicus, you are forgetting yourself. I adopt a more chiding tone, wanting to keep the feel of the situation more lighthearted. Please excuse our Emperor. We were up very late last night. I feel that's the best explanation I can make up. It's a childish one, but that's the point. While I am Amicus's companion, and far more than that, I still need to take care not to forget myself. I need to keep Amicus looking good, even when criticizing him. And I can do that by making myself seem frivolous, stupid even. Mainly, I just need to give Magis an excuse to be distracted from Amicus's slip in professionalism. I feel like I did a mostly good job considering Amicus just continues to stare out at a place somewhere to my left and above my head. Ah, I see. I do apologize for imposing myself upon you. I shouldn't have taken advantage of the situation in such a way. Again, His sincerity is striking, and that's unusual. Maybe that's why Amicus is so cold. He doesn't fully trust this wolf. You didn't take advantage of the situation. It's just an inconvenient time, unfortunately. I glance at Amicus before continuing. Why don't we meet later for lunch or dinner? There's a pause, as if we're both waiting for a confirmation from Amicus. How about dinner? Seeming to decide that my word is good enough, the triumvirate agrees. I would be honored. Magis rises out of his spring, water splashing off his fur. Usually when a surfaced creature gets wet, their overall stature becomes less impressive. Cassius and Alex come to mind. But for Amicus and for Magis, it turns out, the opposite is true, and I can see why his kicks have been so powerful. Amicus glances at him, then at me, so I quickly avert my gaze. I don't want to give Amicus any more reason to feel inadequate, even if it's not a good reason. I'll meet you at your villa, if that's all right. 13th hour? When there's no input from Amicus, I agree. That sounds good. All right, I'll see you then. Have a nice soak, Your Highness. With that, Magis disappears around the trail, I assume to where his own towel is stashed. It's silent for a few moments, then I sigh. Amicus, that was terrible. I know. He's grumpy now, so I know we aren't going to pick up where we left off. Well, at least you can try to salvage something over dinner. Yeah. It's quiet for a bit, then Amicus huffs. Thank you, Marco. I was not handling that well. Happens to the best of us, but I think you should at least give the guy a chance. Maybe. I just need more time after yesterday. Of course. While the mood is ruined, I tell myself that it could have been worse. When we return to the villa, I can immediately tell that something's wrong. Bjarni is there, looking more upset than I've ever seen him. It's not saying much, but considering he almost always defaults to a professional, cheerful demeanor, it's obvious that something is very wrong. I think I have a good idea of what it might be, and as soon as Bjarni starts talking, I'm proven right. Your Highness, it seems that the situation in the city has become tense after the issue with the Chamians. Of course it has. There are rumors that a concerted protest is being planned around the 12th hour. What is the actual issue? Do they simply want the Chamians gone, or...? The issue has become broader since then. While the initial complaints centered around the Chamians supposedly turning their noses up to the Luxian culture. Of course. Now it's more about why you, the Emperor, would bring them along. Of course. It's quiet for a moment. Is there something that we can do to appease them? Bjarni looks over at me, then sighs as he puts away his portal. It is difficult to say. Once the Luxians set their minds on something, especially something that makes them upset, it's hard to dissuade them. What if Nefero or Brunus apologize? Not that they should apologize for anything, but maybe that'll be enough to calm the people? No, that will only make them more upset. Chamians come off as condescending whenever they're apologizing. I know that's likely only due to the wolf's inferiority complex, but I don't say it out loud, of course. Are Nefero and Brunus here? I look around and notice that the door to the spare bedroom is still closed. Yes, though Brunus wanted a private moment with Nefero. I look at the closed door, feeling incredibly sorry for the jackal at the moment. I wonder if Nefero will be up for the trip to Lupus tomorrow. That will be even more difficult for the two of us, though in a different way. I regret to say it, but it might be best to simply leave within a few hours. My heart sinks into my stomach at hearing that. Amicus seems to have the same feeling. No, I cannot leave this city worse than it was when I arrived. That will mean absolute failure on Ad Astra's part. I must, make a speech or something. I agree, but I am not sure what else that can be done. The longer we stay, the more time the city has to fester in its anger. But I must. Based on my teachings, I know that more than a few emperors have lost their lives in this city. While the last time was at least a few thousand years ago, the city hasn't changed at all much since, and I feel a great deal of worry for my wolf. He's right, Amicus. If the city can get as bad as you say, it would be too dangerous for you to try and calm them. I also worry that his skill in rhetoric isn't good enough for the situation. He's good, but not as good as... Amicus, what the hell? I'm absent for less than a single day and the city is ready for a riot! He barged in without any of us hearing it. Cass, now is not the time! Now is the time, Amicus! Lux will tear itself apart over this! What, over perceived insults from the Chemians that likely didn't happen in the first place? No, Amicus, over rumors. What actually happened doesn't matter. What does matter is that now they are saying Nefero spat on the food offered to him. God. Amicus takes a deep breath. Well, I suppose I should prepare myself to give some sort of speech. Are you serious, Amicus? Of course. You idiot. Shut the hell up, Cass. You don't understand. I understand far more about this city than you ever will. Cassie's screeching voice reverberates around the villa in the most grating way possible, and I see Amicus lower his ears in response. Now Cassius takes a deep breath. They will kill you if you set foot in the amphitheater alone. There are drones that will protect them. Bjarni chimes in from the sidelines in his usual, cheerful way. Oh yes, and that will lead to such a rebellion that the city will once again declare itself an independent city-state. Good luck trying to prepare at any point during your rule, Amicus. Amicus finally seems to relent. Alright, then do you have anything to propose yourself, Cassius? Cassius goes quiet for a few moments, seeming to gather his thoughts. I can tell what he says next takes a good deal of effort on his part. Then he sags a bit. I suppose you could say that my performance yesterday was not adequate. He pauses as if waiting for Amicus to say something, though the other wolf remains quiet. Therefore, you might say that at least a small part of this is my fault. Another pause, but Amicus just waits. A very small part, but a part nonetheless. Therefore, I shall give another speech. Finally, Amicus shows some surprise at what Cassius just said. And that the people shall be allowed to actually attend this speech. None of this curfew nonsense. This is part of the reason they are so upset. Are you sure? I don't think I could let you... Oh, stop it, Amicus. I know what I'm doing. Do you? I've given speeches in Lux at least a half a dozen times, so yes, I do. Amicus eyes Cassius carefully, as if unsure of the other wolf's intentions. Keep in mind that if I want this mission to succeed anywhere, it is here in Lux. I would not be able to bring myself to leave the city the way it is now. I would at least like them to have a little hope for the future, as that is all I can offer them at the moment. Maybe we could mention that infrastructure project that we were talking about last night, Amicus? Possibly. It might be a bit early for that, though. What are you on about? Well, we discussed tentative plans to better connect Lux to Ad Astra City, possibly by using Chemian tech, but I don't think... Cassius seems to be thinking deeply, much to my surprise. Actually, that does give me an idea. Where's the jackal? Here in the villa? Why? Summon him. I have an idea, but it involves bringing him, and you along. Cassius looks directly at me. To be continued. I kinda have a feeling that I know what Cassius has planned, in that... If it were me, I would say that the only reason that I brought the Chemians along was to sort of study the infrastructure that's already set in place in Lux for how they travel, and to offer up as a consultant of sorts how to best connect Lux with, the rest of Ad Astra. Since Chemia has basically way better tech and less dependent on parental tech stuff, they could conceivably offer up some means to shorten the length of time that it takes for someone to travel from Lux, outside. So it would make sense to bring in a comedian to say, oh yeah, we could, show you guys how to build these engines so that you can go from Lux to Ad Astra City or to one of the other main cities in like less than a day. That would be very helpful because I know even on, here on Earth or in the United States, one of the biggest issues is, well, it's more specific to the United States, is the fact that it takes so long to go from one place to another. And over here in California, there was this plan to make like a high-speed rail that would connect from, I'm not sure if it's San Diego or Los Angeles to like the Bay Area. And it would have been done like in a day. Or it wouldn't have been done in a day, but the trip would have been, it would take you like a day or half a day at most. But people were so against it. But for somebody that like me that has family that lives in the Bay Area, that would be like so awesome. Because like even in San Diego, when I have to go there like almost every other month or every month basically, we travel by I think it's the I-5 or the I-8, and you see like the red train thingy that goes from like downtown to like the rest of San Diego or some other areas like was it UCSD or UCLA? To me, that would be so cool because where I live, it's basically just farming. It's I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you don't know what it is by now, then you don't need to know. But where I live, it's very spread out, and to have like the buses do connect it, but it takes a while. So to have like a train system or something that would connect this area would help immensely. Because yeah, it's very spread out where I live, so to have some good, public transportation would help. And I'm assuming that would help with Lux at least, to help the cities be more connected, thus having the wolves be more connected, thus having things like ideas and places like that be more widespread, I guess? I don't know. But yeah, so I do agree with Marco that it seems like Lux's main issue is the fact that it's so out in the middle of nowhere. So for the people that live in Lux, it's like, oh, it's, we have to worry about Lux only because, we're the only people that are going to worry about our city. But if you're connected with other places, then other people can help, other wolves can help Lux and bring some, commerce to Lux or bring more culture to Lux that isn't just, so isolationist. But yeah. I mean, there is usually a reason why you try to keep your people separate, and it's usually not a very good reason, and it's usually what happens here in the United States. If you were to connect all of the states with like a high-speed rail system, it would be harder to control ideas, usually progressive ideas. But yeah, I'm not gonna get into politics of the US right now. We're talking about fake woven politics. But yeah, anyways, anywho, so what do you guys think? I have been thinking of redoing my playthrough of Ad Astra, the original Ad Astra story, and maybe having some people help me along with some of the other characters, for voices and stuff. So if you guys would like to see a playthrough of the original Ad Astra, then tell me, because the last time I posted an Interea video, it looked like some people did not know who these characters were. You were like, oh, who's this Amicus? Or what's Ad Astra? And blah, blah, blah. Like, really? You guys haven't heard of it before? Really? That's surprising. But yeah, Ad Astra was my very, 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 very first playthrough, and it's terrible. The videos that I made, they're terrible because I did not know how to edit back then. Like, I didn't edit anything. I would record it and upload it. I didn't edit a thing. And in the first video, there is where Marco is still on Earth and he's visiting Rome. There's what is it called? It's the Palatine Temple or something like that, but I call it the Palpatine Temple. But I think it was because I was watching Star Wars before I started recording, so it's like, oh, Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine. Oh god, that was so humiliating. But anyways, but yeah. So if you guys would like to see an Ad Astra playthrough, then tell me, and I might just do it. Who knows? I might do it for like Christmas, like the whole month of December. Not including any update for any other story like Liar, Eden's Reach, or Remember the Flowers, or anything else that actually comes up that is part of the actual schedule right now. But yeah. Anywho, so yeah. Write down in your comments for people that do know the story of Ad Astra and that do know the story of Interea and even Camilla, what you think is going to happen. Obviously, Lux is the problem city, and it more or less remains the problem city going forward. But it would be interesting to see, at least in Interea, how Amicus and maybe even Marco and the rest of the characters, including Cassius and Virginia, and even Nefero and Brunus and everyone else, are trying to improve Ad Astra and bring it more up to line, because one of the issues in Ad Astra, at least towards the end, is that the reason why Marco has to go away is because Earth, while it is advanced and while it is at sibling level, meaning that it is up to the standards of galactic society, it is a bit backwards because it's like a hodgepodge of every single galactic culture, but it doesn't have aliens. But every single, basically, the Ad Astrians, the Chameleons, the people, what are they called? The Amorphans, and a whole bunch of other different galactic societies try to uplift humans. But when all those uplifts failed, the parents, the cosmic god people decided, like, hey, we're gonna conduct an experiment and try to see if the humans will uplift themselves using what's left over from the previous failed uplifts to see if it works. And it worked. The humans are at galactic society level, but there's too many of them, so that should tell you that the parents are not completely benevolent, because they're saying that there's too many of them, so they kind of have to be not cold, but reined in. And that's something that comes up in Camilla at the beginning, where there is a mysterious illness spreading about that's killing people. That's brought by Marco by accident. And if you've read Ad Astra, you know what that illness is, but yeah. Anywho, so yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so if you want an Ad Astra, a new Ad Astra playthrough, then just tell me and, I'll probably do it. Because I do like Ad Astra. That's the only visual novel that made me cry. And because Zordy keeps telling me, hey, if you're gonna cry when you're reading, then cry. Then perhaps you will actually hear me cry. There's 2 parts that will make me cry. One for sure will make me cry. But anyways, yeah. So, thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Ad Astra Interea yourself, then you can find it over on Twitch. And you can find a direct link to it from the Echo Project Twitter page. And if you would like to support the Echo Project and get early access to all of their visual novels, including this one, The Smoke Room, and any other thing that they release, then you can, support them for as little as $10? Yeah, it's $10. And, so yeah, you get early access to all this cool stuff. And they don't just post, early builds of their visual novels. Sometimes they'll post sketches and like works in progress of like things for the builds. And sometimes when Mo does music for the visual novels, they'll post like a song or 2 that will appear in like the newest build, so you get to have like the high quality version of that song early. And yeah, like for example, this animated menu thing, we actually got to see it way before Interea came out. We even got the song before it came out. But yeah, like we even got to see the CGs where Amicus is in the hot springs before the Patreon build came out. So yeah, you get early access to stuff like that. For the Smoke Room, you don't get that much, but it's because usually all that stuff is already at the same time. So yeah. with Interea and Arches, it's usually like when this one is already public, which means that Arches' Patreon build will be coming up next. And then they take turns, basically, because Howley is the one that's writing them. Anyways, but yeah. I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.